Hey guys, it's Bradley with the Insurance Guys podcast. You know, over the past year that we've been recording this podcast, Scott and I have met some amazing individuals and received some amazing advice. So we decided to do something for our audience that may or may not be able to listen to every single episode. We put together a white paper / ebook of the top 7 things that you must do in your agency in 2018 and 2019. We're giving this to you guys free as of right now. You can text the word book, BOOK, to 251-418-4724. Follow the prompts and you will promptly receive that book. Or you can email me at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. That's not going to be automated like the text, but you can receive it that way as well.
Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, hosted by yours truly, Scott Howell, and the incomparable Bradley Flowers. For agents, by agents, we're here to share real-life experiences, tips, and insights related to all aspects of both being an insurance agent and running a successful agency. So sit back, turn up the volume, and let's get down to business. Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. I am your fearless host and leader, Mr. Scott Howell, with I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. Before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama, Parade First Team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent, and my friend, ladies and gentlemen, stand and deliver for the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
I'm great, Scott. How are you?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited. Anytime I'm able to talk to a man that I feel like is one of the only human beings on the planet that is as quick-witted as I am, it's a good day, brother. It's a good day. Guys, we have a very special guest on the podcast tonight, and it's somebody that I have a man crush on, that I'm in love with, that I have stated on multiple occasions that, and I haven't really shared this with a lot of people, but my mission, my purpose in life has actually changed since meeting him. What I would like to do for the rest of my life is just follow him around and be his videographer for basically the next 45 years. I have this romantic dream of us like hanging out at hotels and like getting up and him doing like a video somewhere and me getting the videographer for him. How do you say that? To be his videographer? Be his videographer. Guys, the gentleman that I have on the podcast today is a thought leader in the world of insurance. He is the Chief Marketing Officer at Bold Penguin. This is his 2nd episode that he's been on the Insurance Guys podcast. He was a All-American baseball player at the University of Rochester. He currently lives Waterville, New York, and I know I just brutalized that, and he is married to the lovely Miss Beautiful Lauren Murray, and he has 2 beautiful babies as well. Guys, this man needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. I give you the other incomparable Mr. Ryan Hanley. How are you, Ryan?
So I was going to hire you as my videographer until you referred to it as videographering me, and the jig was kind of up at that point, man. So,
well, here's the deal, man. I'm sorry that I don't know my correct dialect and my terminology for being a videographer, but I think I would do a pretty good job of it. I think I can handle it.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you some slack on the vernacular there because you are from the deep south.
Oh,
and
correct.
You do speak a slightly different language.
Absolutely.
So,
that hurts.
Not saying right or wrong. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying different. That's all I said.
Hey, I'm about to bring a ray of sunshine into your life. This is gonna be like driving down the interstate and seeing a rainbow when I tell you this.
Okay, I love it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
We have done 8 podcasts today, I believe. Is that right, Bradley? 8 podcasts. I believe it's 8 podcasts. If I'm not mistaken, 3 of the 8 people that we have had on this podcast today have stopped the podcast to tell us what a huge impact that you were in their life.
That's true. That is true.
And I'm here to tell you, like if I were you, and I'm not, but if I were you, it would probably be pretty hard for me right now not to get choked up, because I'm telling you, I know you haven't heard what was said yet, and I think I'll wait and let it come out in the podcast, but I know of at least 2, and I think 3 that basically stopped the podcast to say, I don't know where I would be today if I had not found Ryan Hanley's content and, got to know him on a personal level. And we basically I wanted to model what he was doing, and I can't tell you what a huge impact he's had on our lives.
Well, that's very, very meaningful. It has been the last month of my life has been very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people listening may be aware, some maybe not. I'll kind of address the elephant, I guess. I was forced to take down a lot of content on my YouTube channel and on another website that I had created. I don't want to go into the details, but basically, long story short, not every breakup goes well. And in this case, it has been about as miserable and terrible a breakup with my former employer as could possibly be, and has forced me to not, at least for a little while, not really be able to create and share and that kind of stuff. That all being said, what's been tremendous and amazing and really moving, and to be honest with you, I like it's unbelievable to a certain extent. Just the emails and the social messages and the phone calls and the texts it's been overwhelming to a certain extent. The work that I was doing at Agency Nation, it was the most meaningful work that I'd ever done in my entire life. I was pouring my heart and soul into helping a group of people that I believed in an industry that I believed in. And just really, there's so many good people in our space, and I just liked helping them. But you never really know, maybe if I step back, I say, hey, 2 successful conferences, there was some stuff, but man, it's been unbelievable. It just, saying that, it does get me a little choked up. There's a moment a week ago where it very much felt like, man, I'll never be in that space again. I'll never be able to help people like that again. And then I kind of I might have put on some hardcore 90s gangster rap, and I just
Me Against the World, Tupac.
just put that shit right. I'm more of an East Coast guy, but that's okay. More Wu-Tang. That's all right. That's all right. Again, not right or wrong. Just Tupac's a little more cerebral. Just give me a really hardcore beat and a hook that's super angry over and over and over again. And I kind of blew that shit right out of my mind and just said, you know what? I got to get through this little period, and it'll be all freaking good, man. Because it's not like we're not doing great stuff at Bull Penguin, and I'm creating a lot there and stuff.
Phenomenal freaking company. Phenomenal absolutely. Product. Scott, talk a little bit to Ryan about Rocket Fuel.
Rocket Fuel?
Yeah.
My whole life, people have been telling me all the things I can't do, just like them not inviting me to Agent 2021 when every human being on the planet is like, how the hell is Scott Howell not at Agent 2021? Yet another example in my life where somebody just gives me more rocket fuel to do all the things that people think I can't do. So anytime I get met with adversity, and people tell me either you can't do something or you're not going to do this or blah, 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 or whatever, I just use all of it as rocket fuel to continue to go down that road and get it done because and I think, speaking of Agent 2021, I think Vaynerchuk says it best. He talks about, the best way to get back at people is to be successful.
This is what I would say to that. I 100% agree with you. Nothing that I do in the future will be to get back at anybody.
Right.
I just want to get back to the work that brings meaning in my life, which is helping agents. That's really it. It has nothing to do with anything other, and it's just I just want to get back to doing what I love, man. Creating videos and telling agent stories. The most fun for me is when I can find an agent. This is killing me. I met, do you guys know Ben Zimmer?
I know that name.
I don't know him.
Yeah. Mm-mm. So he's an agency owner out of Indiana. And I met him at the Big Eye of Indiana's annual conference a couple months ago or a month ago or so, November. I did my thing. And then afterwards he came up and he's like, dude, I got to tell you about my agency. And he starts telling me about his agency. And I just was like, man, this guy's dialed in, you know what I mean? He's our age, he's in that late 30s, 40s time, just looking to kill it. And he's got this awesome model where he's like, I don't care where the producer is in the country. I just want awesome freaking producers, and I'm going to give them a great comp split, the ability to buy in, to earn into owning part of their book, an easy opt out if they want to go start their agency, because I don't care. Like, I want awesome people who are going to grow great businesses, and if they want to stay with me, then that's amazing. And my agency grows and they grow, and that's great. And if they want to go do their own thing, I don't give a shit. I'll find another great producer and bring them in. Right. He's like, and over time, just by paying people right and treating them right and having a great brand and all that stuff and being supportive and building a great business, that will come back to me versus can I squeeze another 2 points out of this producer? Right. And I just was like, this is the agency of the future right here. Like, this is what it's all about. It's like, it's location agnostic. It's allowing your producers to be, quote unquote, like part owners. Like, they might only own their part of their book, but man, they own part of their book and they're getting contingencies off that. And that feels good. There's nothing worse for a producer to watch the agency principal cash a fat contingency check and you don't get shit. You know what I mean? And look, I get the agency owner started the business, took the risk, built the business. I get all that, and they deserve the lion's share. But just for those agency principals out there who've never been just a producer, know that that's like a kick in the balls or the groin for, just to be politically correct, I guess the groin.
No, we can say balls. It's okay.
Okay. Well, I just know, I think groin is
Kim with VaynerMedia just went ahead and dropped the F-bomb in the middle of the podcast
before we
today.
started recording. She's like, can we curse? And I'm like, the only other person that's asked that was Ryan Hanley. And that was the greatest interview we ever did. So heck yeah, let's go.
So yes. So when that agency principal catches that fat contingency check, that's a kick in the balls, So I was like, I buy this. I'm into it. And look, he might have it all figured out. He may not have nothing figured out. And the truth is, he probably has some shit figured out and some stuff not. But I'm like, that's a story that needs to be told, and no one's telling this guy's story. So like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking forward to getting back to, because that to me is what I enjoy the most. And I believe, when I really think about it, I think where I can add the most value to this industry is not like Instagram tactics, right? Like, I don't give a shit about Instagram tactics. Like, go figure it out. Google it. That's what I would do. I'd Google it and I'd tell you, just you Google it and bypass me. But what I can do is figure out who's doing super cool shit and figure out really fun ways to tell that story and help other agents learn from that person. Because like, you guys didn't know Ben Zimmer, but you need to go find him and get him on this podcast. He's a super cool dude with a great story.
He's already on the list.
Hey.
Yeah.
So to add a little bit of context to everybody, I do the booking for the podcast, for those of you that don't know. And I really enjoy doing that because it allows me to connect with
you really enjoy doing it.
I really Scott says that to say I booked 18 interviews in 2 days, today and tomorrow, because we batch record all of these. There's only about one person on the face of this planet that could get a 19th interview, and that was Ryan Hanley. And he tweeted the other day. What exactly did you say? You said that you hadn't created anything in X amount of time and you were feeling murderous. And,
yes,
and I responded, and I said, let's do a podcast this week. And you said yes, and I immediately called Scott and said, guess who I just booked? He said, who? I said, Ryan Hanley. He said, what number is that? I said, 19. And then a few days later, you retweeted Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary Vaynerchuk said, when you create friction between you and the audience in your best short-term interest, you're going to lose. And you retweeted and said, insurance marketing the last 2 decades. And I agree 1,000 million % with that sentiment. So let's talk a little bit about what that means to you and go from there.
Hey, before we do that, can I tell the most hilarious story you've ever heard in your entire life, Ryan?
Sure.
Okay, then we'll get back to that. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I found Ryan Hanley on YouTube.
Okay.
Just by chance. I did not realize how much content he had put out on YouTube.
That's his jam.
And so I started slow dripping some of his videos, like in the shower.
Cold showers?
No. Shower, driving down the road. I would if I had 2 or 3 minutes, I'd listen to one of his videos. Some of them were very compelling. So I'm listening to your content, and one morning I got up, and I think I had actually subscribed to your YouTube channel. So this is like day 2 that I find your content, right? Day 2, day 3. And you had just posted, which would turn out to be your last YouTube video that you posted before, you went into the blackout, right?
Yeah.
And so you had posted it like not long. This was like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning when I got up because I don't sleep anymore. And I posted on his YouTube channel in the comment section some little witty comment about, I've decided my why is to keep, working as hard as I can to remain better looking than Ryan Hanley, right? So it's kind of funny. And Ryan responds, ha, 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 whatever. And so like 3 hours later, I'm driving down the road and I go back and you have deleted all of your freaking YouTube. And I'm going, holy shit, man, Ryan can't take a joke, dude. He just deleted his entire YouTube channel over me.
Thankfully.
How narcissistic is that?
Hey, you're making a buzzing noise. I'm gonna call you back.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
So I'm driving down the road thinking to myself, man, do I need to like text him or call him? I mean, what did I mean, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, why would you delete all this shit on YouTube over just that little comment? God, that is hilarious. That is the funniest thing ever.
Man. Then you want to hear something funny about so thankfully that was not the worst hate I've ever gotten in my life. So this is 2009. Mm-hmm. My very first insurance blog post I ever written, right? The very first blog post I've ever written, ever. It's on ryanhanley.com. I've named myself the Albany Insurance Professional. This is going to be my big content marketing play to grow my insurance book. And I post the article, which I can't even tell you what it was about at this point, like at fault auto or something. Like literally, I mean, this is like the very first one ever that I've ever written and published in public. I put it on Facebook and maybe LinkedIn or something or Twitter, one of those places. And this dude just teased off on me for like 4 paragraphs of, you slimy insurance agent. This is what's wrong with the internet, is that you can write this bullshit and sell people stuff, and you're not trying to help people. You're just trying to sell them. And this is like 4 paragraphs of this. And I'm talking, this is my first one. Like, I am a rookie of all rookies.
Hey, Bradley has a very similar story to this, by the way, but go ahead.
It's just like, dude, haters. I mean, not that you were hating. I knew you were joking, but like, it's just like freaking at this point in my career, like I just got a really great note actually from a guy who's worked for one of the state associations for a long time. And he's just like, talking to me about the situation or whatever. And he just was like, he's like, dude, I have not always agreed with some of the crazy shit that you said, but I've always respected the fact that you just kept putting it out there. Mm-hmm. And, and I think, I'm not trying to be like humble brag or whatever. I just think like I've kind of learned to try to keep like a 10 to 20% hater quotient. Mm. Like if you don't have a 10 to 20% of the people that interact with your content are hating you or hating on you, then you're doing something wrong. And that doesn't mean they actually hate what you're saying. It means they might be jealous. It means they might see you as a competitor and think you're doing good work. Yeah. They may disagree with you. Like, but if you're not in that 10 to 20% range at least, then you're not pushing hard enough. Yep. Like and that goes for like insurance content too, because what that means is like, that means that your content sucks and your competitors don't see you as a threat. Right. So, I'm not talking about being bold and saying crazy stuff and like, either Trump blasting or Trump loving, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter which way you go. I'm just saying, like, if you're pushing the envelope and you're doing your best work and you're telling your truth and you're trying to help people and you're really looking at how you believe, from your, then people should hate on you. They should.
Well, and for me, I got a tremendous sense of anxiety when I first started really putting myself out there. And I would check my phone constantly, not because I was addicted to my phone or anything, but because I was worried about somebody posting something negative. Like, it used to ruin my day when somebody would hate on me. And now my wife has a picture from about a year ago. We were at dinner and she took a picture of me responding to a hater on Facebook, and I was smiling like it was the most genuine, big, like, glowing smile. And she's like, for everybody out there that wants to hate on my husband, this is the face he makes when he's responding to you. Like, he really enjoys it. Like, I look forward to it because, number one, from just an algorithm standpoint, it helps. I mean, I'm getting comments like, but it's like, if you feel, I mean, hey, because I believe so much in what I'm trying to put out that I'm willing to conversate with any other standpoint that you want to have,
Yeah. I mean, really, for anyone who is a hater, and you have to assume just statistically that some of you listening to this podcast are haters,
Right.
that like the worst thing you can do to someone is just shut the hell up. Don't say anything, because you don't realize is that when you're responding and keep commenting back, all you're doing is telling the algorithm, like, show this to more people.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't think it's ever been presented like that. I've never heard it presented like that before.
There was a guy that was hating on me a few weeks ago that about 6 weeks ago asked to be on our podcast. And I just have tremendous, and I hate to sound like freaking Gary V, but I just feel sorry for that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have to take time out of your day and your 40,000 followers on freaking Instagram that you probably bought, if you have to take time out of your day and that's important to you, go right ahead. That's fine. Anyway.
Bottom line is peanut butter and jelly, guys. Peanut butter and jelly.
Let's talk a little bit about friction in insurance in the insurance industry.
Making it easy to do business and why all of these companies seem to just do the exact opposite
and
of that.
Agents too. I mean,
yes. For the 4 people that are still listening, let's talk some.
Give them some
value.
No. We've got way more than 4. We've got at least 5.
No. I mean, after all that,
I know. I know. We've got at least 5.
Yeah. So, okay. So what I read into that tweet by Gary V, when I saw that, what immediately clicked over to my head is that from a mass media perspective, we have been pounding people over the head. And I'm going to take this on a couple levels. So just
follow right ahead.
Starting from a mass media level, right? We've been pounding people over the head with price for so long. Not that consumers believe it, which they do, but they don't really give a shit. I mean, no study has ever been done, or I shouldn't say no. If you look at J.D. Power's auto and commercial lines insurance shopper study for the last 5 years, price has never been higher than 4, and for reasons that someone switches. So you can't say that people just shop on price. That if you say that, you are wrong. So just anyone who has ever said that, there are people who lead with price. They lead with price. That's their problem. They lead with price. You have to overcome that obstacle and do your effing job and sell them the right insurance. So don't complain that people just buy on price. They don't. You're just not selling them on the reasons why they should care about anything other than price. I firmly believe that. But that's a different rant. So mass media has pounded the industry over the head for so long that agents actually believe that it's true. Big problem. So what happens is independent agents that can't come in, captives and everyone, everybody on a smaller scale, right? That's not mass media level, starts trying to compete on price, right, and on fast. And it's like, I don't care what insurtech you have, right? Today, there is a very tiny, minuscule chance you will ever be as fast as selling a policy as a Progressive or a Geico or any of the other really well-run D2C players. Like, you just won't be. So that's okay. Own that, right? Own the fact that there's going to be a little bit of friction in the process. But if you play the long game and you work on building relationships, loyalty, trust, respect around the idea that coverage matters and that you want to have that person in your book of business for a long time, not because it, not because it makes you money, but because you actually give a shit about them, right? Like, if you can make someone believe that, price will never be an issue. I mean, if some, one of the carriers jacks their rate, and they'll care about price for 10 minutes until you go, no problem, bro. That's why you're with an IA. Let's go over to another carrier. It's all good in the hood. Yeah. So, like, this is what drives me crazy, is that we start trying to be something we're not. And I just feel like you can't fight it. Like, they've lost that battle. Like, you go talk to some of these large carriers, and it's just churn and burn, push them through, what's my close rate? And I know those things are important to eyes too, but like, there's no relationship. No one cares. They don't stick. It's a constant game. Churn is a problem and all this kind of stuff. And, all these single policy clients. And it's like, that's the problem they're dealing with. So like, don't try to play that game, because if you play that game, you have to deal with their problems. Do you want their problems? They're not perfect. So my point is, like, from an insurance marketing perspective, from an IAs, I would love for us to think the long game. Like, think about how you help people over the long term. And it doesn't mean you can be complacent. It just means don't try to play that cheap, fast, easy game. Play a different game that you can actually win and that actually allows you to be around for a long time. So that's kind of where my head was at.
Well, I think as an industry as a whole, and it starts from the top down, we make it incredibly hard as a whole for people to do business with us, right? And I think it starts at the carrier level and goes all the way down to the agent level. Like, you're calling, and some people may be a proponent for this or maybe not, but you call an agent's office and you get a phone tree. Not that there's anything wrong with that as long as it's efficient, but I just think
it's 100% wrong with it. Let me tell you what's wrong with it. 40% of all phone calls that hit a phone tree never actually talk to a human being, so that means that if you want to make more money tomorrow, anything else that we say, if you want to make more money tomorrow, get rid of your phone tree. Your phone tree is costing you business every single day. It was it was a piece of research that we did out of trustedchoice.com where we watched people come in, and I'm telling you, you're losing 40% of your inbound opportunities at a minimum if you have a phone tree. That's just a fact.
And that's one thing. And I mean, and that works for some people and doesn't work for some other people. But I think it's because of that quote unquote friction is why the Lemonades of the world, the Geicos of the world, the Progressives of the world that go direct to consumer can win, is because it's so like you go on Twitter and you search Lemonade and every single customer is saying, "Oh my God, this was the easiest thing in the world I've ever done." Now there's some problems with that on the back end, but at least on the front end, the customer's like, hell yeah, it was a great experience. You know what I mean? I just think that as agents, as carriers, as an industry as a whole, our goal needs to be to make it as easy as possible to do business with us while at the same time educating the client.
I'm going to tell you how this gets done. Fire the carriers that don't change. But agents won't do that.
Yeah.
Agents won't do that. They won't do that. They're hooked on the contingency check crack, right? They already built up a book of business with somebody and they're getting a contingency check and they're hooked on that crack. And look, I get it. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. Like, you got your wife drives a 7 Series and you got a bass boat, and God bless you, right? Like, good for you. But I'm telling you, the reason carriers don't change is because agents don't ask for change. I've been selling software to carriers for 5 years now. And the number one thing that you hear is, my agents aren't asking for this. As soon as an agent walks into a carrier and goes, bros, I need this piece of technology to sell more insurance with you, they go, okay, boom, 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 and they peel off and they make the change.
And I think that's why the guys like Jeff Roy and Seth from Zinc Insurance have done really well in that sector, because they're not scared to go to the carrier and say, I need you to make this for me, or make this work for me, 100%. Or we're going somewhere else.
And look, you can't ask for crazy stuff, right? I mean, it has to be useful and it has to be something they can replicate to other agents.
I need a monkey in my office.
yeah.
Dan and ADD.
Yeah, well, hey, you could probably get that. Danny Kimball.
Oh, that we just
had
that podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so my point is, like, there are carriers that are doing really awesome stuff for IAs, right? And I've been putting a lot of research into this lately because I'm just interested in this topic. Like, everyone says, the carriers. So I'm like, okay, it can't be, and there's no such thing as an absolute, right? I firmly believe in that. So there has to be an exception. Who's the exception? Let's go find the exceptions. Okay, so the exceptions aren't Travelers and Hartford, right? They're just moving too slow and they have too many different channels. And they're very siloed, large businesses, and it just takes them time to turn. So, okay, so let's look farther downstream. Well, I look at like Chubb's product. They have a business portal, right? I don't know that that's the answer, but they're trying. Okay, so there might be something there. I look at a company like RPS. right? RPS has a 3-question quote to bind cyber policy that any independent agent can get appointed with them. Okay, you want a point of entry that you could start to sell consumers quoting and binding insurance, or at least getting really close online as a front end loss leader sale that you then could backdoor into a full policy account. But now you're doing true like lead generation work, and you can run ads and content and referral deals into that platform and track all of it. There you go. AmTrust is doing that with workers' comp, right? So there's another solution. Central is starting to roll something out with some of their lines. I think you'll see some cool stuff from them, right? So there are platforms out there. You just have to go find them. If your company rep keeps walking in and you keep asking for stuff and they don't even know what you're talking about, you're dealing with the wrong company. Go find the company that suits what you're trying to do, because they're out there. Like Foremost is doing cool stuff. Foremost, you think about Foremost, you're like, oh, that's just non-standard, whatever. Not true. Like they're getting into some commercial vehicle lines, and they're pushing into a bunch of new markets, and they're coming. Their platform is not tremendous right now, but they have a ton of updates coming, and they can do some really cool stuff.
Without giving too much of a plug, what carriers do you think are doing that along with Foremost?
So I just mentioned a bunch of them that I think are super interesting. State Auto. I think it's yet to be seen if State Auto is going to break their cycle of kind of underwriting and pricing fluctuations. I think it feels like they may have started to get that leveled off, because that's always been their issue, right? Is that you write a State Auto policy and then a year later it's 3 times more expensive. So it feels like they're starting to figure that out. And in addition, they've rolled out a lot of digital tools to help their agents do business faster. Again, nobody has this all the way figured out. And my point isn't that you're going to walk into a carrier and all your wildest digital dreams are going to come true. My point is align with the carriers that are investing in this and are pushing forward and are looking at you and going, what do you need? And actually fucking listening to you, because that's where you want to spend your time. And then here's the other side of the coin, right? So here's the other side of the coin, just to play devil's advocate to my own argument. So if I were someone who was more of a traditionalist, then I would say, well, Ryan, that's all great, but we've seen digital technology come and go for 2 decades now, and it is always associated with turbulence, right? It never brings the stability that actually makes a company profitable long term. And really, and actually the CTO for Bull Penguin, Ben Clark, wrote a tremendous article on LinkedIn about this the other day. It's CLARKE, Ben Clark, CTO Bull Penguin. Just check his last article about underwriting discipline. It has like 3,000 views already in like a week and a half. And the reason is that at the end of the day, for as much as digital technology and reducing friction and all this shit is super, super important, you know what the most important part of this whole thing is? Profitable, consistent rates.
Preach.
Profitable, consistent rates.
Preach.
So I look at a company like Cincinnati. If you get a Cincinnati appointment and you write commercial insurance, it's like the holy grail. And the reason is because they pay claims and the rates never change, right? Like, not never ever, but you don't write insurance on a restaurant and the next year it's up 47% in premium, right? Like that doesn't happen. And yes, it may still take 3 days to have a human being return a BOP quote to you. But I guess my point in all of this is, and with the diatribe that I started on, win the game play the game the way you can win it. It might take 3 days to return a Cincinnati quote. But if you think Cincinnati is the best carrier for the customer that you're doing business with, then all you need to do is properly set expectations for them. Right? Just properly set expectations.
Therein lies a problem with it. That's somebody that's great to be aligned with, but it's so hard to get aligned with them.
I think it is if your value proposition is fast before coverage, then the answer to that is yes. But I think it should be coverage done as fast as possible. It really is the way that I look at it. If you're going to set business up that way, all you really need to do is properly set expectations. I would bet any amount of money that if you walked into an HVAC contractor who did not have Cincinnati insurance and was a good fit for their underwriting portfolio, and you explained to them what you would be getting by purchasing and holding on to a Cincinnati insurance policy, and that all they had to do was wait 3 days instead of 3 hours, I bet that they would wait 3 days for that quote. The problem is we don't have the intestinal fortitude to look that person in the face and say, hey, man, you're getting the best possible thing ever, and you're an effing rock star for purchasing it. It's just going to take 3 days. I'll be back in 3 days, bro. Like,
but then, a lot of the agents who have the wherewithal to do that can't get appointed with Cincinnati.
Well, yeah, because I think they have been very smart. And I'm not saying it's easy to get appointments with Cincinnati, and I get it. Like, but here's what I know about Cincinnati. They're not dummies. If you can write business for them and you can show them that you'll consistently drive business and put profitable business on the books, they will appoint you. The issue is they're not a spray and pray company. You know what I mean? They're not just going to appoint anybody, which I understand it can be incredibly frustrating. And that's just the nature of the business. And Cincinnati's not the only company. I don't want to just hold them on a pedestal like they're the only company that operates that way. I'm just saying that's one of those companies that I think, yes, they're not digital yet, but you get to explain to your customer that they still use frontline underwriters, which means that when any other company tells you that ledge on your house is 3 feet longer than the underwriting book tells me it should be, and we can't write you, their underwriter will walk out and look at it and go, that's fine, I'll write it. Or maybe they won't. Right. But you at least have a shot. Like, they're going to give you an honest shot and underwrite your business.
Case by case.
Yeah. I think there's something special about that, man.
So, Ryan, let me add to what you're saying, and I guess kind of, I don't know if this is disputing it or not, but it's just kind of adding to what you're talking about. But so all I am is an insurance agent, right? That's what I do. I'm an insurance agent. I happen to have a podcast. I have $2.5 million in personal lines. I have $2.5 million in commercial, 50-50 split in my agency. I see it.
You are a baller. What do you got? You got like your own tanker off the coast? You shipping in
Oprah Winfrey. I'm in my basement like Scrooge McDuck every night, just swimming in money. So to I guess go back to what you just finished saying though, I'm in it every day. I'm in it every day. I'm in it on the personal line side every day. I'm in it on the commercial side every day. I see both sides of that house. And as somebody that represents the 250,000 insurance agents listening to this right now, if they were talking back at what you just said, here's what they would say. The lead time on a commercial client, that is almost mutually exclusive of personal lines. And what I mean by that is, if I go into that HVAC, person, decision maker, and we're talking about his insurance, I'm going to have 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 days to get him a quote. That expectation on the commercial line side is never the same as what it is on the personal line side. Now, if a sumbitch calls my office and needs a home and auto quote, you better be getting somebody a damn home and auto quote.
15 minutes.
And you better not wait 24 hours or you won't have to worry about it, right?
I would say that I think that's very, very fair.
Yeah.
I think it's a very fair assessment. And actually, this is a conversation I was having with my wife. And I am so back up a little bit. I am probably right now a little commercial lines biased because I work for Bull Penguin and like I am elbows deep in commercial lines every day.
Right.
I will tell you, we are in the first inning of what happened to personal lines 2 decades ago. Mm-hmm. We're in the first inning of that happening in a small commercial right now.
Agreed.
Like that's happening. Like Trisha Griffith, the CEO of Progressive, just came out and said that small commercial is Progressive's #1 growth opportunity for 2019 or something like that. Not an exact quote, but basically that was the gist. So when Progressive says that, that means Geico's thinking the same thing. Berkshire Hathaway's thinking the same thing. You know what I mean? Farmers is thinking the same thing.
Oh, I can tell you Nationwide is, because Nationwide is setting up to try to be, don't know if they'll make it or not, but their goal is to be one of the top 3 small commercial companies that independent agents use in the next 5 years.
So that's why my mind is there. So, okay. So I was talking commercial lines, 100% completely fair. So let's talk about personal lines. So I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I was talking to my wife about this the other day because she is now basically running her agency that her family owns. And her function inside of the agency on a day-to-day basis is quoting all new business and basically selling all new business that comes through. So she's churning through 7-8 accounts, if not, upwards of 10, 15 a day, depending on how psychotic she tries to get. And we're talking about what that looks like. And I think there are ways that we can automate that. I think that process does need to become more automated. What I would ask you, and I'm just interested at this point, like, are you pushing 3 policies on all of them, like home, auto, and umbrella? Are you doing a lot of monoline stuff? Do you not write monoline stuff? Like, are you doing any like loss leader business? Are you cross-selling on life insurance? Like, how are you maximizing the revenue out of that personal lines book?
All of the above, but I think what we do in my agency is you always want to lead with a home first and then get the autos from that if you can. If somebody's calling for an auto quote, you start asking discovery questions about, well, do you have a home? You could be getting a lot of discounts if you had a home, that kind of stuff. We always mention the personal umbrella policy, but you don't want to overload people. And this is just my opinion. I'm sure there are people that are going to listen to this and say, no, that's not how you do it. You do it this way. You can't just overload people with one thing after another, after another, after another. So sometimes you mark it down that, hey, we haven't talked about life insurance. So maybe you call back 30 days later and I'll tell you something that I've tried to train my people to do, and I don't think they're doing it. I have a friend of mine who's a really, really big life insurance guy that sells, P&C insurance, but his entire staff has been trained to ask one question. It doesn't matter why somebody calls. They could be calling for, billing question, right? The question is, and this is the easiest question I've ever heard. Oh, by the way, who do you have your life insurance with? Yeah. And all you're doing there, it is exactly like putting a football on a tee for the kickoff. Because what have you just done? You just started the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So where it goes from there is up to the person on the other end of the phone as far as, well, we've got it with his work or whatever. But at least you've started that conversation. I think there's a lot of agencies that don't even start the conversation. They just don't ever ask about it.
Most don't. Right. Only 30% of independent agents even write life insurance.
Correct.
So they're all just leaving money on the table.
I would argue it's less than that.
And don't quote me on 30. I know it's around there. It could be in the 20s.
Yeah. And so, what's the definition of writing life insurance? 5 policies a year?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a good question. I don't know.
So Ryan, are you just absolutely completely tired like I am of the insurtech dead horse getting beat over and over and over and over again?
So I am tired of people holding it up as something that it is not.
Right.
It is not the killer app of our industry. It's just not that. That doesn't exist. Like, no one's scared of lemonade anymore. No one's scared of anybody. And what's happened is, and I think for good reason, because insurance was never broken. Anybody who ever said that, I immediately looked at them like an idiot. Because it's not broken. It's not broken. It needs to be innovated. It needs to be improved. It needs to be modernized. But those are course corrections. It does not need to be blown up and rebuilt, because, this is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts. Like, some MIT dick is sitting on stage at some insurtech conference, surrounded by a bunch of people who have also never worked in the insurance industry.
And paid for him to be there.
Yeah. And we'll stand up there and go, insurance is broken and these people don't understand the modern consumer. Yet, Hurricane Harvey hits freaking Houston, and there's insurance industry is putting that town back together. Now, I'm sure there were misses. I'm sure there were problems. And look, you can't just rebuild a town with insurance money. It takes time, and people's lives are destroyed and all that stuff, right? It was a completely terrible tragedy. But the reason that Houston has a chance is because of insurance money. It's because it works. It's because there are claims adjusters on the ground within hours, starting to pay people to get into freaking hotels and putting their lives back together and going, you know what? You don't have to sleep in your car tonight. You can go sleep in a hotel. Like, here's a check. Here's a debit card. Go get your light. You know what I mean? Go take a deep breath. Come back to this tomorrow. Like, it's not broken. It just needs to be improved. There are course corrections that need to be made to adjust to things that are changing. Technology is improving. Customers are looking for a different experience, and I think that's a lot of the things that you guys talk about on the show. So I am sick of insurtech being held out as like this thing that us idiots who've been in the industry for all this time just didn't realize was out there, and we should thank them for coming and saving us. Like, screw that. Like, you haven't earned that right to say that.
Well, in the industry probably is behind in terms of technology, and these sort of insurtech companies. We're behind because everybody was making so much damn money, nobody cared, and they didn't want to touch what was working.
And claims were still getting paid.
Exactly. So it was working, therefore that's what caused it to get behind.
Right.
Yeah. So that all being said, I am, and obviously I work for one of these companies, I'm very happy and embrace and enjoy insurtech conversations around how these startup companies are integrating into the fabric of our industry and helping many of the companies that we do business with and many of the agents that are our peers do business in a more efficient manner, a more effective manner, and a more profitable manner. Like, that to me is really, really interesting. And there's tons of them. And that's where I think, the winners, I said the other day that I think connectivity is the giant slayer, right? Like, the thing that gets me hard is connectivity. Like, how connected is your business? Can you put your data to use? Mm-hmm. Can you put your data out into the field? Because you take a company like State Auto, right? I think they're $600 million in premiums.
I think so, yeah.
Right? Like, not an enormous company, but all of a sudden they start to be able to put their underwriting data, their pricing data, their quoting and binding technology out into the hands of agents. Like, I'm waiting for the day a carrier has an app that allows you to quote and bind right on the friggin' app while you're sitting across the table from a customer, right? Like, imagine if you had your full, one of your carrier's full commercial portfolio sitting in your hand, and you just needed to ask a series of questions while you're interviewing that business owner, walking around their business, and at the end you hit a button and you go, "Hey John, how's $1,700 sound? Let me get your credit card. I'll swipe it through my Square." Right?
Yep.
Like, that's a bit like utopian, but the idea is like, State Auto gets there first. They all of a sudden move much faster than any carrier has been able to move before. Mm-hmm. And who knows if it'll be State Auto or it'll be someone else, EMC or, who the hell knows who it's going to be. But I do think that, I was looking at my wife's agency the other day. I went in there and I was talking with them because obviously I'm very invested in them being successful.
Right.
And I was like, it'd probably take 6 months of pain, and I can compete against any super regional agency in our area. I could compete across the board with a staff a tenth the size.
Right.
Just a couple technology tweaks. Yep. Right. I need to get out from under applied TAM. Right. I need to get out from under that thing. And
that beast.
Yeah. And whether I don't know that I know what the right option for agency management systems are today. I know the right option is not TAM. I think even applied would probably agree with that. But so I don't want to go down that road. But the idea is an agency of 13 can compete against an agency of 100 with a few technology tweaks today. And I think that is sexy as hell.
I've said this on 3 podcasts today. This is number 4. My friend and great American, Mr. Mike Stromso, you know what he says? He says, big doors swing on small hinges. And that is exactly what you just said. You walk into the agency, you tweak this, you tweak that, you take 6 months to make some small, in some cases probably incremental changes, that very small changes. You change a few things to turn it into a little bit more of a digital agency. Next thing you know, your growth is through the roof, and now maybe you've gotten a chance to lower your overhead.
Yeah. For sure, man. For sure. There's all kinds of stuff. Here's another little pet peeve of mine. And we can even talk about this. I'm interested in your perspective because you and I may disagree. But like carrier call centers, why are we not using carrier call centers at least in off hours? At least in off hours. Like I will buy the "it's my experience" argument. I don't know that I fully believe it, but I will accept it. But at least in off hours, like the average carrier call center, we're talking Safeco, Travelers, like those carrier call centers have a 93% retention rate. That's 12 points higher than the industry average for IAs. Like maybe we could dial down our hubris just a little bit, and in off hours, we allow our customers to be serviced by a carrier call center in off hours. Like it's simple things like that, I don't know. That's just where my mind goes. Like,
and that point right there, Ryan, is a point that I've made a lot here recently. I think that captive agents get spoiled sometimes because most captive agents that I know, whether they use a call tree or not, have that option to take their phone at 5:30, 5:15, whatever it is, and take everybody to a State Farm call center. Does that make sense? Where an independent maybe doesn't have that option.
By the way, I did not get a call from the CEO of State Farm after the last podcast we were on.
Complete bullshit. Complete bullshit.
Michael Tipsford.
Tipsford needs to get his crap together. That's just that needs to be the title of this podcast. Tipsford needs to get his crap together. I don't know. Maybe he's got
awesome that
maybe
you remember that.
Maybe he's got some insurtech company that State Farm's working on buying that's going to cost them $680 million. That's going to change the whole world for State Farm. I don't know.
We have a huge State Farm audience too, so that's even funnier.
Yeah, no doubt. I still, I don't understand why they wouldn't do something like that. I mean, that's amazing.
For all the State Farm agents that are listening, understand that there is an easy way to monetize your commercial lines leads that come into your agency that you can't find a place to put.
Right.
That place is Bold Penguin. And if you were willing to send an email to this Michael Tipsford or a letter, or if you saw him, shake his hand, say, "Hey man, you look great today. What do you hear about this Bold Penguin?" I would appreciate that tremendously.
Absolutely.
Guys, the first person that does that, the Insurance Guys podcast will make it worth your while.
Yep. If you get Tipsford to buy Bold Penguin or to strike a deal with Bold Penguin for $670 million, we will get you a gift card for $50 to Outback Steakhouse.
I was going to say Outback.
You get a gift card to Outback Steakhouse and a free
guys,
podcast.
Just to add a little context to our current mood doing this podcast. We did 8 podcasts today. We had an hour and a half break. We ran down to the Irish pub, drank 2 beers, came back and called Ryan Hanley. So that's why this is a little bit more laid back than it normally would be.
Bradley's context for that was exactly correct to the T. That is exactly what has happened.
Man, I didn't know you guys were going to be drinking. I would have put a couple down before the show.
Well, you've been whispering the whole time like you're in a storm shelter in North Alabama. I mean,
I have a 3-year-old. I have a 3-year-old 15 feet above my head, and I have a 5-year-old 25 feet from me. If those wake up, I will get murdered.
No, I completely understand. I've been there.
Miss Murray will not be pleased with that.
Negative.
No, she will not.
Well, man, hey, Ryan, I'm going to close this thing out, but before I do, I don't want you to know one thing. I love you, and I cannot wait one day, somewhere, sometime, at some event, someplace. I'm sure we will get a chance to sit down, and I want to spend some time with you. And
I'm trying to think if I'm going to be near you. I'm going to be in the Dallas, I think, is the closest, in Arkansas. How close are you to Arkansas?
Long way.
12 hours.
Yeah.
But I want you to know I love you, and if you ever need me, I'm a phone call away. I love doing podcasts with you.
Anything we can do for you, brother. You're in our thoughts, in our prayers. We've got your back 100%.
Yeah.
So just know that.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm a very huge fan of what you guys are doing. I know some of the people that you've interviewed these last couple of days, and then the one I know some people you're interviewing tomorrow, and you just you guys got a rock star lineup, and you're doing the work, man. I mean, I love coming on here. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's about having great conversations with good people, talking about the industry, figuring shit out. Like,
Absolutely.
If one person gets one thing from this conversation that improves their agency, then it was worth an hour of the 3 of our time. That's the way I feel.
Could not agree more.
And like I've always said, we would still be doing this right now just like we're doing it if we had 100 people listen to us.
Absolutely.
We do it because we want to help agents and we love it, and we want to meet our guests. That's we want to find the experts and bring them to the people. So
hey, by the way, before I let you go, I'd love to get Cass on the podcast sometime. I know he's got his own podcast, but man, I know we don't need we don't need to talk about it, but he shut the corn down about 2 weeks ago.
My God.
I bet you were like, oh boy. But anyway, I'd love if you could talk to him. Tell him I'd love for him to come on sometime.
100%. I will. I'll hook you guys up. Anybody else that you need, just if I have a connection to him, I'll be happy to do it. And the last thing I want to say before I jump is, I really appreciate the fact that you guys speak to both captive and an independent agency audience. I think that I get that we're competitors, but we're all kind of competitors. And the only difference is that some of us only have one company and some of us can write with a lot of companies.
Right.
But otherwise, like, a lot of the problems are so similar. Like, I've just always, it's fun to bang on captives when you're an IA. And I'm sure when you're a captive, it's fun to bang on the dumb IAs. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, like, we're all doing the same work. And I think it's really cool that you guys speak to both audiences.
And that's kind of something I've always had in the back of my head is how we're going to be a little bit different other than our personalities is we're going to speak to both audiences. And one thing we were very fortunate of is we had a few guests on in the beginning that really appeal to captive agents, people like Tom Hegna, Van Miller, who are both have approved speeches with State Farm. So we have a rather large captive audience as well. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, I got on Brightbee's podcast the other day, and one of the points I made, I said, look, I think what makes this podcast so unique that Bradley and I do is I am in the transition period right now, moving from a captive nationwide agency to an independent agency, and my ability to communicate, how great it is or how bad it sucks and the problems and issues that I'm having is very unusual, in that I'm going to be probably one of the only people that have done a podcast like this that is able to speak to that transition in real time. That's very unusual. I don't know of a lot of people that have ever been able to do that. So I'm excited about that, man.
And now you get to ride Bradley's coattails as he ascends through the Gary V network. You just get to grab onto those coattails and take him for a ride, bro.
And I tell you, I am like a proud papa. I really am. I'm excited for him going down there and being a part of that. No question.
Insurance Guys podcast listeners, if you want to come to Agent 2021, use the code Insurance Guys at checkout and you get 20% off.
Love it. Guys,
yeah.
I'm going to shut this thing down now. Guys, listen to me. Rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk and go out into the big bad world and sell insurance and make money for your family, for your kids, for the people you love. Figure out what your why is. I want to say a special thank you to Ryan Hanley for being on here tonight. And I want to say that you need to go out and write good business for the agencies that you represent. You need to write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you. Love you too, buddy.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys. Take care.